We're a couple minutes in. Becca, looking forward to hanging out with you today. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, always a pleasure. I'm stoked to provide another very informational webinar here to the audience. I know that we get a chance to kind of tackle some of the more pertinent sales information, and then SumoQuote really is just such a helpful tool for that. So it's cool to be able to integrate all this and show everybody how this stuff works. But super jazzed to be talking about the subconscious, the sales process, value today, and how to really do a great sales presentation, because I think a lot of people really are finding it difficult to differentiate themselves from the other 10 roofers that are, going after their same customers. So this is going to be fun. Guys, pay attention. Ryan's put together a great presentation here, and we're going to be chiming in, kind of going back and forth in our casual manner like we always do, to chat about the sales process and some sales psychology and stuff like that.
Well, I was going to say only 10 other people, man, in Calgary here. I think I checked one time talking to a bunch of distributors. It sounds like we've got about 1,000 residential roofing contractors in Calgary here. So,
right. Well, I'm thinking about like DFW. I mean, that whole area got probably 10,000. It's a Shark Tank. So you really have to be good, and every little edge that you can have, with a lasting impression that you can have with your customers, genuinely does matter. So this will be some good content today.
Totally. So, hey, first off, our apologies. I'm sure it was my fault, but somehow a bunch of the people that have signed up came through a link for Becca as a co-host. So unfortunately, it was through Becca as a co-host. So you're all sort of being seen and could present. And so if you're in there, maybe just mute if you've got that option. Otherwise, we got a pile of other people and we're sort of good to go. So it looks like we had 2 different links out there for this thing.
Our bad. Probably my fault. Like I said, don't know here. Could have been me.
All good. So today we're going to go through the 5 elements of a perfect quote. And really the interesting thing I find in going through this with Becca is Becca does this training with salespeople all the time. So she's the perfect person to be talking about this stuff with, because these things, the things we're going to be talking about, really they're applicable to a salesperson, but you don't always know if a salesperson is going to be there when a homeowner's signing off. They may or may not, but you do know the quote 100% of the time will be there. And so that's where you start to get this overlap. So it's the same type of training that Becca does on a regular basis. It's just putting it into the quote to bring a ton of consistency with that.
Yeah.
So here, let's jump into it. I'm Ryan. I'm running a company these days called SumoQuote. But besides that, I'm also one of the owners of a company called Epic Roofing Exteriors. So I ran sales there for years. In the 5 years or so that I was running sales there, we did about $100 million worth of business of roofing sales. Quite a bit of insurance and retail. So I come with a pile of roofing experience. This is my industry. You are my people. So this is great. And Becca, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. Becca Switzer with Roof Sales Mastery, author of Diamonds in the Sky. I'm sure a lot of you are in my program or on my email list, something like that. That's how you're here. But I got into my direct sales career actually started with Cutco Cutlery back when I was the tender age of 19, I believe. And then I got into storm restoration when I was 21. Storm chase for a couple of years. Co-owned a local roofing company in St. Louis for a handful of years as well. And then during that time started creating the Roof Sales Mastery programs and the YouTube channel and wrote the book and all that. So now most of you know me from my online sales training programs for recruiting, sales training, and supplementing and Xactimate and stuff like that. So super jazzed to be here with you guys today and to deliver you more value per usual. And Ryan and I are a killer team. So stay tuned for some great content today.
Yeah, well, and Becca always has super fun purple or blue or something hair, and I have none. So whatever color the hair, I always have hair envy. So
we could paint it on, I can use this shade of lipstick on your head.
I was going to say purple could work for me for hair.
It works for everyone. It's the color of royalty.
I don't know about that. Okay, well, here, let's dive into it together here. So really, we started to touch on this already, but why is a quote actually so important? Because I suspect a lot of us it's that one page, it's just filled with a bunch of legal jargon or roofing jargon, and it's really underwhelming a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So this whole concept of why a quote matters, it's the same thing as these companies that are really successful out there. It's because their brand experience is consistent through every step. You think about Apple on the screen here, right? They have been so thoughtful in the experience and the brand position of how they've done all of this stuff. As a roofing contractor, you don't show up with a nice branded golf shirt on and a truck that's dirty and rusted out and filthy and expect that they're going to look at you as the most professional option.
Right.
So
it has to be consistent.
totally, the consistency matters huge. And it's interesting this day and age. I find, Becca, like I find a lot of us roofing contractors, I include myself in there because this was my mindset for years, is I always looked at my competition. I was like, well, I'm better than them at this stuff, so I'm doing great. But this
Right.
whole concept of just because you're better than terrible doesn't make you good. And people are now starting to compare you customer experience wise to Amazon, to their bank, to like there's all sorts of grocery shopping. Like I
Right.
can order my groceries online, pull up outside the store, and they just walk them out to my vehicle for me. Like these customer experience, people are leaning into all over, and
Oh
that's
yeah.
what homeowners really are comparing us on these days.
Especially, yeah, and it's especially important again, like I want to hammer home this point. For most of you guys, you're working in a really competitive market. Like I get so many emails every single week that are like, how do I what do I do when I'm the 10th person to knock on this person's door? There's Tom, Dick, and Harry that are my competitors here. And most of you guys, unfortunately, all kind of look the same. It's like what it's coming down to, unfortunately, with a lot of the customers is, did they like you, right? Which we don't know how charming the Jason Momoa lookalike that came up after you was. We don't know. And then it really just ends up coming down to price for a lot of customers. But that's the salesman's folly there. It isn't supposed to come down to price. It's supposed to come down to the entire experience overall. And if you do a really good job, not only presenting yourself, but the materials and your company and the whole process just feels kind of like that Apple experience, you can be the highest price and still get those jobs. So, but so many people are still, they're kind of like in the ball pit, like wrestling each other down here about price. And that's just not enough anymore because there's too many people that are coming up behind you that have exactly that or something else. So we really want to focus on what does the entire customer experience feel like. The other thing is roofing is like not that sexy, like construction is not exactly that hot of a thing to be promoting. So we have to find a way to make this blue collar thing that we're offering more of a white collar experience, and that's going to help you stand out.
Totally. I couldn't have said it better myself, Becca. So here, let's dive into it. So the 5 elements. Oh, sorry. I threw in, this is going to be a bit more interactive today. So we do want you guys to get really comfortable with that chat feature there. What we're going to do is we're going to go through a few things here because we want to actually brainstorm and think through some of this stuff together and actually sort of talk about it some. But Becca and I are going to moderate through this. I'm going to back out of this. We want to talk a little bit just first on what are some things you love to buy? And we'll start thinking then about the why, the experience, what have they done to entice you? What's different about them than the million other things like that? So I'm going to back out of this here. And in your chat there, just chat in there. What are some of the things that you love to buy these days? And then we're going to, after that, touch on why you love to buy them, because we want to tie this all in. We want people loving that experience or thinking and having a different experience with you. And
done food and a quality associate experience. Absolutely. Shoes. Yes. Nails. We love getting our nails done on our lashes. Clothes. Yep. Michelob Ultra, the champagne of beers. Wait, that might be a different one. I love buying a new phone. Like you just feel like, ooh, it's Christmas morning when you do it. Getting a new car is always really fun. Crusette kitchenware, that's good. Hats, watches. And I want you guys to think about while you're going through this list, like even as far as like, how are those things packaged? Like if you get a Rolex, what does it come in? You know, or even when I buy like a nice leather handbag, it always comes in like this beautiful box and then another sash, like a velvet sash, like bag. And then I open it up and the tag is tucked neatly on this beautiful, like gold printed card, like tucked in, it says fossil, you know?
Totally. I'm running out of space here quickly, but so we got a whole bunch of them there, right? I love the last one here, cigars and single malt scotches.
Yeah.
So, but there are, I mean, what a range on this stuff, right? Everything from, you know, cigars and alcohol to clothes, shoes, to watches, cars, phone. Like there's things that we love to buy out there.
Right.
So think about it now. Why do you love to buy those things? What is it about those things that you love? What's that experience? What's the piece of that that makes it exciting for you to actually buy that? So chat some of those things as well. Why you love to buy these things? If you think about the experience of those,
There's an
what types of
emotional connection to a lot of those items, I think. Like when you get something new for yourself, like the connection of like, I'm doing this for me, you know, whether you're splurging on a watch for yourself or a new bag or a new vehicle. The quality, okay, so what moment of happiness, that's great, it makes you feel good, right? But why don't we go to Walmart to buy something that makes us feel good? So think about that too, like the packaging experience, how it's delivered, the little, you know, okay, I buy my skincare from Beauty Counter. Okay, so talking about like what the company does. So she's talking about here, Lucia's talking about, you know, raising the standards for, she buys skincare from a specific company that has a mission and, you know, they put a lot of their money toward good things. I would say the same thing goes to when you buy certain types of food, right? If it's organic or you feel like you're supporting a small farm and you're not supporting factory farming, things like that.
Totally. These are great. I love these. Well, and the nice thing with these is, you know, these are things that we can do as roofing companies, right? So social awareness purchases. We can recycle shingles. We can give back. There's lots of things we can do with that, right? That moment of happiness. We can focus our sale on how it's going to feel for the homeowner when they know that their home is, you know, safe and secure and dry, and they're not dealing with, you know, craziness and worry and concern. And you know, we can start to blend these things in.
Right.
I was chatting with somebody the other day. The thing they loved to buy was a car wash.
Yeah.
And the reason they loved to buy it was the car wash, they would always, you know, spray something in there so their car smelled amazing.
Yeah.
And then they would leave this little gift or little thing just in the coffee mug holder. And these are little things. But that was the perfect thing because nobody typically says, oh, I love to buy a new roof. But
Right.
no, you never also think about somebody saying, oh, I love to get a car wash. Like these little things that we can do within our industry can have a massive impact here as well in the overall experience that people
Yeah.
have.
Yeah. Well, and even think about, you know, we'll probably talk about Apple a lot just because that's like the quintessential customer experience and product that everybody's familiar with. But like when I get an iPhone, I don't even want to throw the box away. And I have nothing, there's no reason, but it's like, that's so nice. And the whole setup process is so easy and everything is just so intuitive when you push buttons and all of that. So think of those things in your mind as well. Like how can we integrate that experience into the roof sales presentation?
Totally. So, okay, let's go back. Let's get back on track here, Becca.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. This is what we're going to talk about, the 5 elements of a perfect quote. So what we're going to, and you'll notice just putting a price down on a quote, we do that. That's like breathing. That's taken for granted that you will give them a price. So,
Right.
but we want to be able to connect with homeowners. We want to be able to educate them. We want to be able to solve their problem. We need to know what their problem is first. We want to give them some selection. Consumers love selection, just not too much. And we want to offer some proof, some sort of social proof that they can trust us that they're making a good decision here.
Right.
So here, connect. This is, I love this one. You know, this whole concept of people buy on emotion and justify with logic.
Right.
Becca's been a master of this. Becca's ability, I'm going to say it like this, Becca, to manipulate emotion, but it's not manipulating, to connect at that emotional level.
Yeah.
Her ability to do that with who she is is phenomenal. And that's why, we get on these things, because we trust Becca, and because Becca has been human with us, and she shares these videos, and it's interesting, right? Because if we look on the side over here, it's this concept of, 95% of purchasing decisions are subconscious. When marketing a product to a consumer, it's most effective to target the subconscious mind. I think, Becca, one of the things you do great is there's this level of realness with you, where subconsciously we're like, oh, I like that. I trust that. I believe her. She's an expert at this stuff. And we're sort of drawn in because of all these subconscious things that we may not be actively thinking, but
Yeah.
subconsciously is going on as we're watching your videos and listening to how you train and teach and all of that stuff.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. But take this to the level of a quote. If you look here at this sample on the left, one of the reasons with SumoQuote that we make it easy for you to put the client's house on the cover is because that's the place that they've brought their new puppy home to, or their new baby home to, or they've had Christmases in, or they've got all these fond, happy memories, and they love their house. So when you put their house on the cover of that quote, they start, those emotions and feelings that they've got for their house are starting to go onto your quote sum.
Right.
As opposed to, you look at this other one here on the right, there's not really much of an emotional connection there at all.
Right. It's like Jim came with his Bic pen and just scribbled. I can barely read that it says Driftwood, Owens Corning, and then at the bottom just has a number on it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's this thinking of, how do we get into the subconscious? And I know that this is not how we typically talk as roofers. But this is where the opportunity is. Everybody talks about, what kind of truck wrap do you have? Everybody talks about, what's your golf shirts look like, or right? Like, there's all these things that we all talk about. If we can start to wrap our minds around some of these things and just do them in little ways, it doesn't need to be difficult, but it's really powerful, the effect it has on your sales.
Yeah, I agree.
So, okay, Becca, another time here, let's go through another brainstorming session.
Okay.
So, how can you create a subconscious connection using your quote? So,
are you asking me?
Yeah, I mean, I'm asking everybody. Please feel free to throw it in the chat.
Yeah.
Well, Becca, fill some time here while they're getting their ideas and fingers warmed up on the computer again. What do you think for this?
Well, we've obviously already talked about photos.
Yeah.
We can also talk about putting in specific things that we've paid attention. As salespeople, it's your job to pay attention to what do people care about, right? So you've paid attention to details, whether, okay, they have pets, they have a little baby, they've got plants outside, extravagant landscaping. These are all things that if you're paying attention to, they care about. And when they're thinking about the whole process of getting a roof, it's like, well, I have a little infant and I don't know when this is going to be scheduled, or I've got a rose garden and I'm really worried about, like, I didn't think I'd have to get a roof for another 15 years. This isn't something I had to think about. Okay, Walter said specific damage or grievances.
Which is great, because that's something that's caused people stress, right? They're anxious about that leak or something going on with it. And so if it's something specific for them, you're addressing that, you're hitting their emotions with that.
Right. Talking about referencing their family, why this is going to be a great, investment into their home where their whole family is going to be living. But, these are things you can ask, like, is this the house, are you guys planning on living here long-term? Like, are you going to die in this house, or is this like a short-term thing? And if it's like, oh, this is our dream home, this is where we've saved up all our money for the last 10 years to live here, then we know that. We want to talk about preserving that and taking care of it and things like that.
Well, and I'll show you guys one here. I had to pull a stock image for this one, because I couldn't find the original image when I did this. This was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Okay. But the photo of the front of the house, their little puppy was on the driveway, and I squatted down. I basically laid down on the driveway and took a photo basically of this puppy, but with their house in the background, and put that on the front.
Hell yeah.
Believe me, they commented on it. Like, they loved seeing their dog on there.
Absolutely.
So and again, it's just that little subconscious thing of any little thing can really help stand out with that. So yeah, there's lots of fun things you can do with that.
Right. Whether that's, a great shot that includes some of their landscaping and you comment on it, or the kids are out playing in the front yard on the jungle gym, or whatever it is.
Totally. Okay, let's jump back into this thing again. So, educate. So, step number two. Step number one, connect. Step number two, educate. Educate is really important. A lot of time I find roofing contractors are like, oh, well, I like to talk using industry jargon and I want to make sure they know I'm the expert. And you make it a little too confusing. Confusion actually, it creates roadblocks. It slows down the sale.
Right.
If it's easy to buy or to understand, it's easy to buy. The more you sort of talk in jargon, even when you realize you don't doing it, you're actually slowing down the sale with that. So you've got to
Yeah.
find ways to educate in really simple, easy to understand ways.
Yeah.
So I like this one over here. Trusted advisors are always thinking about proactively adding value for their customers. Often they will offer insights that are not directly, and I need to correct that, related to closing the sale. So these photos on the right here, this was actually from a house. This was an insurance job. I sold this one in 2016.
Yeah.
So a few years ago now. But I remember it was a full shake roof. We got the whole shake roof approved. Vinyl siding. We swapped it. We actually went with a higher end class 4 asphalt shingle. But then we went full hardy on the house. We kind of swapped the quality there using the dollars they had.
Yeah.
But I remember standing on the ground with the homeowner trying to explain, hey, you've got this dead spot behind your chimney. And it was just like blank look on her face.
Right.
Right? What's a dead spot? Oh, we're going to build a cricket there. It's
We're
okay.
like, what?
What's a cricket? So you can imagine they've done studies for the human brain to understand written versus visual information. Visual can be comprehended up to 10 times faster and retained up to 10 times longer.
Right.
So here, the homeowner understands really fast exactly what the issue is and how you're going to correct it, and can easily explain it to somebody else, even if they don't have the photos there at their fingertips.
And I would like to interject something. I
Please.
think that something that a lot of consumers worry about, and this isn't just with contractors, but anything that's not their area of expertise, think about like if I go to the mechanic, I don't know shit about my car. So if they say that this, and this is wrong and it's going to cost $3,000, I'm just like, I hope that's true. Like my well, I had a problem with my well here in my new house, and they came up and they're like telling me all these things, like using all these words and showing me all these meter readings. And I have no clue what the dude's talking about. And I'm like, to me, because I didn't understand it and he didn't make it simple for me to understand, I thought he was bullshitting me. And then I went and talked to my neighbor who knows like everything. That's how I feel about it. And he's like, yeah, that sounds like BS too. But when you're not helping somebody understand something and you're trying to describe something and you're making it sound complicated, sometimes that actually doesn't work in your favor at all, because people think you're just talking shit. Like they think you're just making stuff up to create a fear-based selling system with them. So and you might not be doing that. Like if you're talking about this dead space, but they're like, I don't even know what that means. They're probably like, now he's probably going to try to sell me some other thing. So being able to demonstrate, especially with pictures and stuff like that, make it really simple for customers to understand, is critical to them trusting you.
Well, I love that you brought up mechanics, because honestly, when we were just like dreaming about the idea of this thing that we could build to, gain trust with homeowners and do all this stuff, I was like, man, you know what industry needs that? Automotive. Because if there's one industry that people trust less than roofers, it's mechanics. It's just like,
Exactly.
yeah, sure, something's broken there. Like,
Yeah.
it's so, yeah, I love that you brought, and funny enough, I actually saw a couple months ago an app that had launched where a mechanic was using it. It's brilliant. It showed all the photos,
Yeah.
and somebody at my work sent it to me. They were like, "This is amazing. I love it. Like it's super transparent." And they
Yeah.
bought because nobody else is doing that, and they
Right.
trusted the mechanic because of the transparency from it. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Like customers are always afraid that any business that's very technical that they don't know a lot about, whether that's construction or electrical or plumbing or their car or whatever, they're afraid, like everybody's thinking in the back of the mind, is this person going to tell me that I need to buy a bunch of stuff that I don't really need just to make a buck and like play on my ignorance? So it is really important that you're showing these things. It creates a lot of trust and it educates the customer. It makes them feel empowered to make a buying decision with you.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we're gonna do this one more time, everybody. One more time, and then we're gonna let you off the hook and you guys can just listen. But chat in here. What types of things can you educate a client on? Because we want this to be practical. At the end of the day, we want you to be thinking and have some takeaways where you can say, oh, okay, well, with retail jobs, maybe it's on product. Maybe they've had issues with, black streaks on their roof and stuff like this, and you can give them a solution there. With
Yeah.
insurance, I find it tends to be their Xactimate report. It's really confusing and all the line items and everything else. And just helping them understand this or the insurance process
Yeah.
is really, really helpful. And then one of the things that we do on large bids, we actually build case studies and we just drag and drop this into our SumoQuote presentation. It stitches in seamlessly, but it's case studies on similar type things, the engineers we were working with, the project, how it went, the project materials, and we show them that, hey, we do, a full hardy replacement on a building like this. We can do this on your building pretty easily. So
Yeah.
what kinds of things do we need to educate people on? I see one from Jim here already, ventilation. Ventilation is a huge
That's a
one.
good one.
Totally agree. Helping
Code.
people understand intake and outtake and all that stuff is, yeah.
Yeah. Codes. Flashing is a good one. Different quality materials, like why is IKO different from CertainTeed, for example? Good one, Matt.
Well, in some of these codes, ventilation, product, these would be retail and insurance and large bids often.
Right, right.
So, yeah.
Water shield. I might have already said that. I can't remember. Local codes, flashings. I would even say slopes, like what kind of materials can be used on certain, like I've been to a 212 roof that's got 3 tab shingles on it. And I'm like, this is not okay. Helping them in that.
Yeah, we've all been to 112s with that, Becca. It's awful.
What are you guys doing?
Well, and sorry, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was going to say for insurance, decking, that's something we usually have to educate them on because insurance doesn't usually pay for decking. It's not direct physical loss. So, put that under the umbrella of direct physical loss. Like,
yeah. Well, and here's the thing. So, and again, people just keep thinking about this stuff. It's one thing for you to say it, but how quickly does somebody forget what you said, especially if it's a week later? Right? Your ability to go in there and show these things and to talk about local building codes, the homeowner's not going to remember even an hour later half the time. If you put it in their quote, something they can reference, something they can see, something they can show their spouse, something they can, like, that is the part that we want to have that ongoing feeling of trust.
absolutely.
Of people being like, oh, I keep coming back to this because it had all the answers in there.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that you said that, Ryan, because most people are just leaving one piece of paper, whether that's their contingency or their bid or whatever. And then whether one spouse was not there or not, maybe they both were there. But then guess what? Tomorrow or 3 days later, when they review that piece of paper, they're trying to remember things that you said. And if it's just your piece of paper with a number on it compared to 2 other people with a piece of, like, with a number on it, they don't have a way to go back and remember how important it was that you talked about, hey, their ventilation actually needs to be fixed, and that's why they've got so much moisture in their attic, or it's so hot upstairs all the time, or they've got blistering on their shingles, or whatever the case may be. If you have all these things where you've got pictures and it's there on their quote for them and they can review it, you look like an absolute expert at it.
Well, and like practically speaking, a number of years ago, I gave a presentation to a property manager, and it was about an hour and a half away from us in a smaller community. And it was for, full roof, partial siding, partial metals, sort of your typical insurance job, right? So I called this property manager a week later and just said, hey, obviously we'd love to work with you guys. How did the quote look? Are we in the ballpark? What are you guys thinking there, right? And I'm just trying to engage them. And she said, I wish I had recorded it. she said, well, we've got our local, roofing contractor here. We use him all the time. He's the best. But I'm gonna recommend you guys for this job. So,
Right.
um, and I knew our price was $237,000. And then she said, yeah, by the way, his price was $207,000. So, we're about 15% higher. She said, if you want to tweak your price, go for it. I'll push you either way. And I said, well, that's great. Thank you for that. But I got to ask, why? Well, I'm just curious. Like, why are you going to push us here? You're raving about this other contractor. You've used us for one service call one time. Why are you going to push us so heavily to the board? And she said, oh man, I know it shouldn't matter, but like, holy smokes, that quote you gave me was just amazing. Like, I had a question, I turned the page, there was the answer. I just know I put that quote down in front of the board and they're going to be like, well, obviously we should be using this company. It'll just make my life easier if I'm pushing for you guys from the beginning.
Right. And it's easier to explain to anybody that you need to explain it to, whether it's your boss, your husband, the owner of the building. It's easier for the person who's not you, the salesperson, to continue to justify making the choice of choosing your company when they have everything right there in front of them.
Yeah, and I mean, for all I know, the other roofing contractor could have said the same things, but it's so easy to forget. And when it's written there, the property manager can just hand it to the board and it's instantly communicated. They understand it immediately as well. Like, yeah, it's like we said, the quote is there 100% of the time that a homeowner is making a decision. The salesperson isn't necessarily, but
Right.
these are all consistent things that salespeople should be doing. It's just create that consistency across everything.
I would also say, to add, just snowball off that, it's the objections that you can't answer when you're not physically there. One piece of paper with a price on it, again, left behind, isn't going to be able to address those potential objections or concerns that come up when you've left the kitchen table and now you're not there at their house, right? Or at their office or whatever. So again, having this full presentation there where they can go back and gain more information and re-educate themselves on everything you went over is actually critical for continuing to kind of calm down people's fears, objections, and stuff like that.
Totally. Yes. Um, okay. This one, I love this one. This one's really interesting to me. And it's this whole concept of we need to solve the problem for the homeowner, right? And I like this quote here. Homeowners never read anything at first. They never believe anything at first. They never buy anything at first. There's a lot that you have to break through in
Yeah,
order to connect with them.
right.
So, so here's the first thing though. It starts from the top, and we typically as contractors assume we know the problem. We think the problem is a leaky roof. We think the problem is an old roof. We think the problem is that, they have to replace the roof because of insurance. We miss oftentimes the fact where the homeowner's like, yeah, I know my roof's terrible. That's why we're talking. Like, my issue is, how do I pay for it? My issue is, my kid's getting married in 2 weeks. I need to have this done before then. My issue is, name it. I'm trying
Right.
to figure this out with my adjuster or my spouse or whatever. We typically miss this entire thing
Yeah.
of actually understanding the homeowner's real problem.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
so that's where, and we're going to dive in a little bit here with, there's a guy named Donald Miller who wrote a book, Story Brand. It's really brilliant. And that's where some of this comes from. But that's where, once we know the problem, then we've got the ability to empathize with the homeowner and connect with them, back to point one, connecting, and to demonstrate authority that we know how to fix that solution and we've done it before. And
Yeah.
again, even if we think back just one page here, this whole thing, what are we trying to do? We're trying to demonstrate authority by, in a large job, putting in a case study that we do this all the time. Like, we've done this. This is easy. So
And this reminds me of too, one thing I'd like to it's a little thing that I always remember. I learned in my Cutco days. It was just a little saying that they said, customers don't buy because they understand, they buy because they feel understood. So I always try to remember that, like, they get that they need a roof and here's the price and yada yada yada. They just want to understand, like, they want to feel like you are listening to whatever their concern is, which could be so, to you, insignificant. It could be, my dog is really afraid of loud noises, and the scheduling of this, I'm worried about, I want to make sure that I can be off work, right? Or it could be, again, the rose bushes outside. Those are the things that I think sometimes people are missing, that they're not addressing. So helping your customer feel understood really is important in that process.
Totally. So here, let's dive into this. And I apologize, it's a little bit blurry. Full credit to StoryBrand for this. Donald Miller does some brilliant stuff. He's an author, came from a story writing background. And so his whole thing was, hey, stories tend to be sort of all the same or have a very similar structure, right? You've got a character. Doesn't matter if it's Luke Skywalker or Chris Farley, right? Doesn't matter if it's Star Wars or Tommy Boy, right? They've got a problem. It doesn't matter if it's the Empire trying to rule the galaxy or the business is going to go under because now this goofball's running it. They meet a guide, right? Doesn't matter if it's Yoda or if it's David Spade, like, and who gives them a plan and calls them to action and goes through. So it's this consistent thing. One of the big problems we often make as contractors is we think we're supposed to be the hero of the story when really the homeowner doesn't care about us and our business. They care about themselves and their home. But they're the one, if you think about Luke Skywalker being the hero, started off, he was an orphan, didn't understand the powers of the Force, living with his aunt and uncle, didn't know what to do, was called into this big thing. Like, this was very different than Yoda, who had the answers and the experience and everything else. So, and if we step back to where we were just talking about understanding and then empathy and authority that we have here, the first thing we want to do is empathize. We want to understand and connect with the homeowner. The next thing we want to do is we want to understand and connect with the problem. And then empathy helps us to take care of the homeowner, that connection, that understanding that we have of them. And authority helps us to understand and connect with the problem and give them that solution that maybe other people aren't, because they think their issue is just a leaky roof and they're not really understanding the homeowner or the problem. And they're certainly not putting anything about how they're going to solve that in their quote to connect with them, to visually help them understand and make it easy. So yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, it's a very different way. And sometimes the character is the property manager who just needs somebody to get out there and get the work done, right? The problem. And you need to be able to say, oh yeah, we do this all the time, and to be able to demonstrate that and connect it and get it done. Sometimes it's even an insurance adjuster. Oh, I want to approve this, but how? You got to show me how I can even justify this, right? And you have to, their problem is like, they don't have enough information to do what you're asking. And so the homeowner's getting angry, you're getting angry, everyone's getting angry, but nobody's solving the adjuster's problem of giving them the right information. So this is a very interesting one if you start to practically think about some of the users or some of the buyers you've got with your company there.
And this I love the third box here that says meets a guide who understands their fear and then has empathy and authority. So one thing that I was going to use an analogy because I'm going through it right now. I just adopted a new dog. He's a Rottweiler who's about 5 years old, and he's heartworm positive. And the rescue really didn't give me a lot of information. So like I went home and was starting to like look at information online and just like freaking out. Basically, I'm like, he's gonna die. Like the treatment is so risky and stuff like that. And I called probably 5 different veterinarians within an hour radius to try to figure out like what's the best method of treatment for this animal. Like what do I need to do? Is it gonna be? And so the difference between some of them who spent either didn't call me back on time or said they were going to call me back, didn't, compared to the ones who were very stoic and just kind of gave me facts but didn't leave me feeling like they could solve the problem, to the person I ended up landing with who spent so much time on the phone with me explaining, sent me a diagram that showed like, here's what's happening. There's little parasites and then they grow and then there's big parasites and blah, blah. It was just such a completely difference. And I put all my trust into that person and their company and everything that they did along the way, how they answered the phone, the information they left me with, how they interacted with my dog, like all of it is such a great example of this customer experience because I totally put my trust in that person. I felt super calm and I didn't care how much it cost because the rescue is actually going to pay for the heartworm treatment, which is actually a couple $1,000s if I went to their vet. Didn't trust the guy. I was like, nope, not going to do it. I'll pay for it out of pocket. I'll go to a different vet that I feel comfortable with. So this is a great example of that, like in real life.
Totally. Oh, that's a great example because that's the stuff we deal with every day, right?
Yeah.
So, um, here, number 4, selection. Customers do want choice, but not too much. You've got to make it easy for them to understand.
Yeah.
Good, better, best is really interesting. It doesn't have to be the way that you do it, but to give them some components of choice. We started doing this with our roofing company with Epic a number of years ago. We saw our average revenues go up by about $1,100 per job because of the upgrades that we just offered them, that we just put there. And by putting it in there, it made it a natural part of the conversation. But
Right.
um, yeah, right. Like they go through this stuff. And in this example, so there was the good, this is the better. So on the better package, what I said here was includes everything from good, but with the following upgrades. And I list the product upgrades, but here's the big focus: advantages. Now we're trying to hit their pain. Why should this matter to them? No more ugly roof, right? Like
Right.
we try, and why should they spend a couple $1,000s more? Because of these things that are really applicable directly to them.
Right. And I love that. So consumers want choice, just not too much. I've got a couple tangents I'd love to go off on this because, again, make it
Sure.
relevant in real life examples. So the first thing that came to mind was like, I always complain about the Cheesecake Factory's menu. It's literally like 42 pages. I get there and there's so many things. I'm like, I literally have anxiety sitting there. I don't know what to pick. I end up picking something I don't even think I actually wanted. And then I get whatever my boyfriend ordered. Or like I'm trying to eat off his plate because it's like there was so much choice. I'd rather go to a restaurant where they do 6 things really, really well. And I get to choose from the halibut, the beef, the chicken, the salmon, or whatever other thing is that the ribs or whatever that they have on the menu. And I can choose that way. The other thing is I recently just went shopping for a new mattress, and just putting options out there for people will help people buy things. Like I think so many contractors go in with this idea that like, they're even afraid that their customers think that $1,000 deductible is too much for a $15,000 project, which is crazy talk. Like they're going in, giving away free upgrades, stuff like that. They think it has to be part of the package, when really how they should be looking at it is these customers, and this is how you should be promoting it to your customers too. It's like, this is about the sickest deal you're ever going to get. For your deductible only, you have this huge project. So you're basically getting this giant project for 95% off. What else do you want to do? Right? We're already going to be up there tearing stuff off. Like, this is a great opportunity. You only get one roof on once every 30 years or something like that. Like, what else do you want to do? And when I went mattress shopping, the guy was so great. He was very educational. You know, he's like, I'm going to show you 3 mattresses first. And I'm in a store that has probably 50 mattresses, right? And had I wandered in there by myself, I would have laid on a few, been confused and gone home, right? But he showed me 3, and then I picked one of those. So, right. And then he's like, hey, did you the whole time he's giving me pillows, right? He's like, do you sleep with a pillow between your knees? Gives me a pillow. I'm like, that's a really nice pillow. Gives me a pillow to put behind my head. I'm like, that's a really nice pillow too. And he's like, they're buy one, get one. Why don't you throw a pillow on there? And I'm like, okay, what else do you have? Like, it was such a good experience. But most contractors are not even putting those options on the table. They're not saying, hey, do you want this to be the last time you ever have to go through this BS, like with this demolition or anything like that? Why don't we talk about putting an IR on your roof? Or, hey, when was the last, you guys have these you're going to have this beautiful new roof and new siding. Like, we should talk about maybe replacing the shutters and maybe the window wraps. So like, when was the last time you got those done? So this is how the conversation should be going, and it should be presented in front of them on paper.
Well, one of the questions I often ask is, hey, how long do you think you're going to live in your house here for still?
Right.
If your average homeowner lives there for 7 years, you
Yeah.
got a pile of people that move every 2 years, whatever else. You got a pile that sort of are every 20 years, whatever, right? But that question lends itself really strongly into upgrades that they select. The
Right.
longer they're there, the more they spend on upgrades, right? If they're like, yeah, we're thinking of selling next year, right away, I know they're probably not going to pay for much for upgrades, or it's got to be something tied to the sale of their property.
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
like a
Um,
statistic, like if you say, hey, well, one thing we do know is if you get new windows or new siding or even just a coat of paint outside increases the value of the property by 15%. That's proven. Show them that article, right? So there are things like that that you can employ in that situation. But yeah, if you're not asking these questions and not thinking all the time about what's relevant to this person right now, you're going to miss out on opportunities.
well, and the one that I hit is hardy board, right? If they've got vinyl damage from an insurance and they're getting a full wrap,
Yeah,
so insurance is paying for that. Vinyl off and to vinyl on, it's the same price. Your house is worth exactly the same amount.
right.
Hardy, they've got about an 83% sort of value gained on the house. So if you spend $10,000 on the hardy, over top of the vinyl, it's $8,300 is actually the increase. So it's less than the cost of it. The only exception is, well, insurance is already paying for the full cost of that vinyl. So now it's not $10,000 that you have to pay to get that upgrade. Now it's only, 4,300, and your house is going to increase $8,300 in value. Like when you start talking to them about some of
Exactly.
that stuff, really easy and powerful to upsell them on those things.
Absolutely. And then just sprinkling in things like, this is probably not the last time your house is going to get hit by hail. I mean, we live in Dallas, we live in Calgary, we live in Omaha, Nebraska, right? So, the last thing anybody wants to do is get a whole facelift done on their house. And then 3 years from now, guess what? Same thing happens. You get holes blown in your siding again. So, if you think about it like that, you pay your $1,000 deductible again. You might as well just consider maybe getting something that's going to hold up to that kind of weather because we get it all the time. If you're putting those things into the conversation, people are just like, that's smart, that's smart, that's smart. And people want to be smart. People want to save money. They want their house to look good, right? So give them all these reasons. That's your job as the salespeople.
Yeah. We've got about 15 minutes left. We got one more to hit here. And then what I'm going to do for you guys is I'm going to make sure I show you a sample quote, an example of what something really polished, professional with all the things we've been talking about looks like. And I'll give you a 5-minute snapshot of just SumoQuote and how easy it is to build this stuff. So I know I'm watching the clock here as well. I want to let you guys know that. But number 5, we're on to this concept that you got to prove it to people these days. And social proof breeds confidence, right? I mean, here's the thing, like you're talking about a $10,000-$20,000 roof, siding, whatever, work that you're doing there. Think about the amount of energy that you put in to just picking a restaurant, right? It's easy to find this stuff out there for social proof. You put in a ton of time just looking at reviews and menus and all of this other stuff. So, just this fact that like people are putting in the time and energy on this these days. So if you're not doing anything around social proof, that's kind of a big deal for what they're looking to do. And you can insert this directly into your quote.
Yeah.
So this is where it got late at night and I was just like, oh, I'll use this crazy font. And as I was building this whole presentation. So anyways, ignore that, ignore the font type there, but
I think it's pretty.
oh, thanks, Becca. But social proof, right? Like put it right on the cover there. Hey, we are trusted by our manufacturers. We learn from them. We make sure that we're trained by them. We understand the specs that we need to hit here for your warranty to be active. So there's stuff that you can do there. This is one of the ones that we started including with our company, client testimonials. And the cool thing with this one is the actual PDF. They can click on this and there's an actual link to open the video in their browser of the homeowner talking about the project and the work you did.
Yeah.
It's really amazing when you start putting this stuff in.
And by the way, for those of you who have not yet made videos and YouTube videos, stuff like that, you can edit all of that to go to a link to your Google Places reviews or Yelp or whatever it is.
Totally. So this stuff doesn't need to be hard. And so what we're going to go through here, we're going to try and have some time for questions. I saw one that popped up in there already. So we're going to try and have some time for questions. But what I want to do is I just want to start off by showing you guys, here is what a quote can look like where it connects, it solves a problem, it educates, there's social proof, like it's sort of all of these things that we've been talking about, right? So, and this was built in SumoQuote, and it's something that you can just slide your branding into. picks up the colors, and you're off to the races. So it's really fast and easy to do this stuff, right? So here we've got an introduction page. If it's a retail job, maybe we're explaining the details of how we're going to go through this. And if for an insurance job, maybe we grab a different template, flip it over to explain the insurance process and what's going on. So we're educating them as we're going through this. We're starting to become their trusted advisor.
Yeah.
Easy to stitch in marketing pages. So it might be product pages that you might want to talk through with this. This is one we use with our company. So how to compare contractors. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, you might be talking to, 2-3 other companies out there. I don't know. What I do know is we kind of all tend to look the same, sound the same, even smell the same. But there's some pretty big differences between
Red Bull and Axe deodorant spray.
Right? But there's some pretty big differences. These are the things that you really need to be looking at. And of course, we've heavyweighted all these things to stuff we're really good at, right? Number of years in business, number of projects we've done, full-time safety officer. Do you have to have a full-time safety officer to be safe? No. Do we have one? Because we're a larger company. So, right, it's that whole concept of if you got it, flaunt it, right?
Right.
Hey, I see Brian was just raising his hand here. Brian, if you want to toss something just in the chat there right now, if you've got a question, please toss it in there. And we're going to start hitting questions here right away for you as well.
And by the way, I want to remind everybody too, Ryan, all these templates that he's showing you here are completely editable. You get to choose what things you put in here. So all of this is customizable.
Yeah, you're just turning pages on and off to include it or not. So, here's one, client testimonials. The next best thing after your neighbor telling you to trust this contractor is another human being telling you to trust this contractor. So, and here's this where if I hover over this, you can see there's a YouTube link that we embedded with that image. So some cool stuff like that you can do. Here we're educating them, so we're showing them what's going on. This is their house. We're giving them comfort on them, managing their biggest asset out there. Then we get into a good, better, best, right? So now we're giving them options. So here's the good and sort of that typical products and a price. And then here's the better. And here's where, in the case that I put this together, I said, includes everything from good, but with the following upgrades. And then the advantages. So we go through this stuff. On the authorization page, here's where now they're practically selecting a package. Maybe they're selecting some additional optional upgrades. And then they're, selecting their products and their e-signing. All this stuff, e-signing, it should be built in. It should be really fast and convenient for the homeowner.
Yeah. And I think that also addresses one of the questions about kitchen table challenges with COVID. This can all be done virtually online. You don't ever have to step foot in the person's house.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is easy to explain. One of the things that we've seen a bunch of people with SumoQuote doing these days is using Loom. So they do a screen record, walking the homeowner and talking them through the presentation with a little picture of themselves in the bottom corner, just talking. And they just share that link to the homeowner. So now if you can't sit at their kitchen table, they see you, you're a human, they like humans, right? There's trust just from seeing you. And you're actually practically explaining all of this and what they can click on and check out. And there's some cool things that you can do.
Yeah. Well, and another thing I'd like to interject here with the good, better, best thing. Why this is so important that you have something like this that you're able to show, whether it's retail or storm restoration, doesn't matter, is what do people always think they're supposed to do? I need to go get 3 bids, right? So you're now the one who's presenting the 3 bids and you're actually helping them. Another phrase that I always remember when I teach people is people don't purchase because of the price. They purchase because they understand the price. So if it's just your price, roofer B's price, and roofer C's price, they don't get it. So if you're presenting all 3 prices in good, better, best, and you're helping them understand, look, there's a reason that a McDonald's cheeseburger is $1, but a Ruth's Chris burger is $18, right? And then an Applebee's is $6. So you're kind of helping them explain that. And if you're doing just storm restoration, your good, better, best is good. You pay your deductible. We do whatever the insurance company pays. You're good to go. That's a great option. better is we're going to upgrade, X, Y, and Z. And best is like, if you really want to take advantage of this, and now it's got like all the bells and whistles and an IR shingle and whatever kind of upgrades you want to do. So it's really important and is going to benefit you guys so much to take advantage of it in this way.
Totally. We've got about 5 minutes left here. So the rest of this is fairly self-explanatory. Obviously, you have to have your legal and stuff in there. If you guys hang on, I'm gonna do a very quick demo of actually SumoQuote here and how it actually looks and feels to build a quote. And then after that, I'm gonna give you guys a coupon code. So if you sign up with SumoQuote, that you'll get a discount, 25% off for the first 3 months, thanks to Becca doing this with us. So here's SumoQuote itself. This is how you would actually go through and build one of these quotes. You can create a new project here. We got some great integrations with Job Nimbus and Company Cam. I'm going to use my Company Cam integration here, and I'll just search for the homeowner's name. I'll find that in Company Cam. And by hitting link, I'm doing 2 things. I'm automatically creating a project in SumoQuote and pulling in the homeowner's information, but I'm also linking the photos from that Company Cam project to this project in SumoQuote. Now we just launched something really cool here, and it's this measurements one. So, and this can help companies scale like crazy, where your salespeople don't need to understand all the waste conversions and waste factors and conversions per bundle or per piece and all this stuff. They can just go fill in the actual measurements. So they can say, what's the total roof area, and they can say, total valleys and, hip and ridge. And they go through this thing and they actually just put in, all of the numbers, whatever might be for this, right? So they fill in their roof measurements. Maybe they've got some additional roof accessories. So they also want to say, how much drip edge do we need? How many vents do we need? How many skylights are there? Pipe jacks on here. So they can go through and just fill in these values. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit save on that. I'm going to go create a new report here. So here's where you can go through, and these pages should look familiar, right? A title page, an introduction, inspection. Really all you're doing is you're going through them and you're saying, okay, on the title page, I'm going to put the primary image. On the introduction page, I'm going to view a template and put in my retail template, right? Hi, customer first name. And so this stuff builds really, really fast and really, really easy. The inspection page, obviously photos in there I can get from Company Cam, right? I can grab these, I can insert them, and then you can even edit them, mark them up, make notes beside them, do all that stuff right in SumoQuote here. You can even reorder how you want these positioned in here. So there's a lot of that stuff. I'm going to do this though. We launched this feature recently. I'm going to choose a different layout rather than starting with my pages all being blank. I'm going to go to my retail roofing one and I'm going to hit OK. And now what you see is it's going to automatically turn on all of my pages I want. And my introduction is going to be set. My title page, I literally just go into Company Cam and drop on that cover image. And now the rest of these pages, like if I go to the quote details page, look, all of my quantities are in here because they're all linked to a price list item. So when I'm saying that I'm removing and replaces all shingles, and I hit this, well, I can see it's pulling in my measurements, it's pulling in my waste factor, it's running it through this equation, which is just like Excel, right? So, and then I go, you know what, rather than 8%, let's go 12%, and it increases my bundle count here, right? Or let's go 10%, and it changes it. And I just hit save, and it updates my quantities. But literally by filling in those measurements, selecting a layout and dropping the homeowner's photo on there, the cover photo of their house, you can be done building a professional, custom with the homeowner's house on it, polished quote in about 30 to 60 seconds is how fast this works.
It's so great.
Well, the fun thing is you could, save contingency agreements in here. You can do final authorizations for insurance in here. So like one of the things I do after the contingency and you get the adjuster out there and you do all of that stuff, and you'll have to forgive me because it's like a habit now. I have to put their house on the cover or it doesn't feel right to me. But if I go review and share on this thing, what you can do with your pages. So obviously we're going through this client's house, different introduction for insurance. Now we're talking about a referral program because now the adjuster's been there. Now they're signing with us. Now they're going with us. So we want their neighbors' work. What we do is we say we will complete repairs in your property as laid out in your insurance estimate. Your authorization will apply should the total value change directed by your adjuster, supplements, right? But this $19,851, that is what was laid out in their insurance estimate. And as we go through this thing, they can select upgrades, they can select products, they can e-sign. Here's their colors. We make it fast and easy for them. But we actually stitch in a copy of their approved Xactimate report from their adjuster. And you see here, 19,851 is that total. So on the quote details page, when we say, we're going to complete repairs as laid out in your insurance estimate, 19,851. Well, what insurance estimate? Oh, the one we stitched in as a part of your contract and matched the pricing on. Like, it's so seamless and easy how you can put this stuff together for them. So, okay, we've got a couple of questions here I want to hit. And while I am answering questions, we promised that we are going to have a coupon code. So Sumo Becca. Just think about Becca's head on a big fat sumo wrestler. The coupon code is Sumo Becca, 25% off for 3 months. And a couple of questions here. Okay, so if a home has a flat section and a composite section, are you able to put that in the same quote? Yes. So what you would do in SumoQuote, and here I'll pull this open on another page so that I can just drag and drop my screen back and forth a little easier. What you would do is you would create an additional section. So on the quote details page, you can create a new tab here. So this would be, the good, the better, or this would be the roofing quote. This would be the siding quote. But as I'm going to do this. I'm going to go, my standard roofing quote, and I can go down here. You would probably add a section and you would call house, flat roofing. And then you would start typing in the, the different things that you might have here. So yeah, so that's you would start loading in your line items in that way. So yeah, break it out by section. That's probably your easiest way. Roofing shingles was mentioned as a social value add to the brand. How are shingles being recycled? In Canada here in Calgary, our landfill in our city is taking on, so the city has set it up so that they'll recycle shingle waste. It's got to be clean. You can't put a bunch of boards in there and stuff like that. So it's got to be just the shingles, and then you throw the boards on top of it at the end. And at the landfill, just chuck the boards out first and then tip the shingles. But they actually recycle it into roads, into asphalt roads. Cool. So that's what we do here. And it's less expensive than your standard tipping fees because they want to encourage it. So I'm not sure if that's available in your region, but that's a really cool green initiative to talk about with homeowners if that's something. John asked about how the job progress integration is coming along. John, it's coming. Job Progress, about a month and a half ago, just built webhooks so that we can start to plan an integration with them. So before a month and a half ago, we couldn't build an integration with them at all. The last month and a half here, we've launched, the multiple layouts feature. We've launched measurement feature, price list. So we've launched a lot of cool stuff, and we've got a few more things coming up right away. But it's coming. Do you work with AccuLinks too, or only with CompanyCam? AccuLinks doesn't seem to work with much of anybody out there. They kind of just seem to want to do their own thing, is what that seemed like. So they don't have an open API. They don't integrate with many people. I can say Job Nimbus, we're actually actively planning our product roadmaps together. We're looking at some really cool things that we can build, and how when it's sent and signed in SumoQuote, the documents instantly loaded into Job Nimbus and line items or pushing back and forth and price lists. Like, there's some really interesting things we're getting into there. So That is one as well. Is Eagle View working? Eagle View, give us probably 2 weeks. So in SumoQuote, where you have the, in this project, where you have the measurements here, you can order an Eagle View through SumoQuote right now. In about 2 weeks here, we're going to take this button, we're going to put it right in here so that when you click on, add Eagle View, it'll automatically dump in all of the quantities instantly here. So if you're an Eagle View user, you hit Eagle View, it dumps in the quantities, you add it to a layout, you're done. Like, it's instant. So somebody asked about Hover as well, I believe. We're starting with Eagle View. That's the first one we're working with. They've got a ton of cool stuff built out. Hover is probably going to come in the future. I don't have a timeline on it. So right now you would just have to manually take the measurements from Hover and just type them in quick in there, and then that'll apply to it. Do you have a separate contract that you use with this also? We don't. So this is our contract, because we go in here, and I will show you. Actually, I'll show you in here. Because we've got our terms and conditions page, and when a customer's e-signing it, we have this toggled on. It means they have to check a box that says, I have read and agreed to the content on terms and conditions. And then we apply their initials directly to that page. You can do that on the terms and conditions or any of these custom pages. So if I go in here to company marketing and I say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, here's our COVID safety plan. I want you to acknowledge this page, because if you get COVID in a month from now, I don't want you blaming us and being angry, because this is our safety plan. We're going to follow it. We expect you to follow it. So there's some really cool things you can do with that. But you end up being able to really stitch in all of the components from your contract into your SumoQuote presentation. So on the authorization page, disclaimer, estimates valid for 30 days, 50% deposit is required. Footer at the bottom of the page, by signing this form, I agree and confirm the following, certify I'm the registered owner, blah, 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 right? Like, you can take all the stuff really we found in pretty much any quote out there, and you just layer it in different places in SumoQuote here. So pricing. People always ask pricing, and it is a great question. And again, I'm going to go back to that coupon code again here right away so that you guys get that. In SumoQuote here, you can hit try for free. Our pricing, we're very transparent with it. We are typically, most people are signing up for the heavy. We are currently at $149 a month. Just so you know, in about 3 weeks here, this is going to be tweaked up just a little bit to $169 a month. We've overwhelmingly heard the value we give people blows their mind for the price that we give it to them at. So
absolutely.
Yeah, like, there is annual pricing. So if you check this box off, it's at $129 a month for all 5 users included in that, but times 12, and we collect it up front. The reason I show you annual is because if you pay for an annual subscription in the next 2 to 3 weeks here, when we've got this going on, before our prices rise just slightly. And again, all we're doing is going from $149 a month to $169 a month. So it's not a big jump. But you can lock your pricing in, that annual pricing, that'll lock you in for a full year. So you avoid that if you guys are interested. What CRMs do we work with? Job Nimbus is the one right now. Having said that, we're going to be building a Zap. Zapier is often a tool used to connect a lot of technologies together. So within the next 2 to 3 months here, we're going to be building a Zap, which will let you just connect different CRMs to SumoQuote directly. So some of that stuff is coming up here. We are developing, as fast and as we possibly can. So there's lots of fun stuff. E-signing. Somebody just asked about e-signing. So one of the things I will show you here, and I don't want to get into this heavily, but we just launched something called Customer Pro. This is an additional cost on this, but basically what you can do is you can invite the homeowner to a portal for them to have access to. So if I go into this customer's portal, and you don't have to use this, what I would say is, if you're thinking about trying to create this next level customer experience, this is how you do it. But start with SumoQuote proper first. This is get set up in there, get your templates, get your layouts, get your price lists, all your measurement stuff. Once you get comfortable with that and it's humming, because once it's set up, you fly with it, then start thinking about something like this. How e-signing works from SumoQuote, you send the homeowner an email, they hit a button saying to review and sign the quote. And basically, when they hit that button, it looks exactly like this, just this part is hidden over here. So they hit the button to view and sign quote. They can walk through the entire thing just in a browser tab, just like we've been showing you with all of this, right? So they pick their package, they read through everything, they understand upgrades and colors and all this. Then they just hit next. And now here's the packages they've got available. So they go with the better package, you know, they go with the high profile ridge cap, maybe the ridge venting as well, color selections, you know, maybe it's onyx black, and they can go through and they actually e-sign this thing. So yeah, they just hit a button. I can't hit in this because I'm not the homeowner. So the system recognizes the contractor logged in versus the homeowner logged in, and only the homeowner can be the one to actually sign on it. But yeah, this is how that would look and feel to the homeowner there. Yeah, one other question here. Can you have a retail contract and an insurance proceeds contract? Interesting question. Okay. What I would probably do with something like that, okay, retail contract, insurance proceeds. What I would probably do, I would give and what am I on here? I'm going to go to the retail good, better, best. And hopefully you guys are seeing, like, once it's built out, just how quick you can navigate. And I know this feels really fast. I apologize for that. But it's really quick to do. So this has all been built off the measurements, off of our price lists and our pricing and all of that stuff. Here's our price. We could go add a section and say insurance proceeds. And we could say credit for you know, ACV from insurance, and you go quantity 1, you know, negative $8,000. And so when you put, the system recognizes a negative, it drops in a credit amount, and it just shows the homeowner what they would owe as a balance at the end of this.
Smart.
So yeah, really easy. Like, and again, if I go up here and I go view page, you know, what that's going to look like to the homeowner is house roofing. Here's the work we're doing. By the way, we're applying your credit for your insurance proceeds. There's the credit. Here's your credit to subtotal. That's what you owe. So yeah, loads of flexibility. And honestly, you guys, there's a ton of ways you can use it in pages. I haven't gotten into near all of them, but I also know we're like way over time here. So let me do this. Here is your QR code. So pull out your phone, grab your camera. Any camera app is working these days. If you want a demo, sit down with someone from our team, and they can give you, like what I'm doing here, where I'm saying, oh yeah, in this scenario, do something like this. They can answer those questions for you in real time. So hit this to sign up for a demo right now, or if you just want to start a free trial. And of course, we're going to offer you in an email afterwards a demo as well. But hit this to start a free trial, and you can just jump in there and start playing around. But you know, we do have a pile of content that we can help you with. We preload some of it to start, but we've always got more that we could show you if you are interested. Whew, Becca, that was a lot of talking I just did there.
But it was so good. And I really hope everybody saw, you know, first of all, gained a bunch of really great closing content and just understanding their own closing process. But again, you guys, I don't promote a whole lot of stuff. I get badgered by people to promote their products and services and stuff every single day. SumoQuote is one that I like wholeheartedly, genuinely believe is going to be the gold standard in sales presenting for our industry. Like it's gonna be like using Eagle View or using Job Nimbus or AccuLinks or Company Cam or anything like that. I love it. I really think it's gonna help you guys close a lot more deals and make your customer experience a lot better and just gain a really positive reputation in your area. So check it out. Really hope you do. Don't forget to use the coupon code there. Ryan, thank you so much for your time. And again, you've put together such incredible software. Like every time I see it, I'm just like, this is so good. I love it.
Thank you. Well, I mean, hey, as a roofing contractor myself, it makes my heart happy because I'm like, oh, I know how I have used this and used
Right.
this. Like, it just makes it so fast and easy. So, yeah, it's really fun. I love these things, and it's always fun to connect with you, Becca. Thanks so much for jumping on this and co-hosting with me. It's been a treat.
For sure. Well, thank you, everybody. We love you guys. And we are going to send out a recording of the webinar as well. I saw a question there. I'll send out an email to my list. So just be on the lookout for that. We'll give you a link.
Awesome. Okay, thanks so much, you guys. Stay safe out there, and all the best for 2021 for you guys.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Are we hanging out? Do we make people leave?
Well, I will